G'day, legends, and welcome to the Celtic Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me tonight is Liam. How are you, Liam?
Aye, not bad, Jared. Not bad. I seem to have survived what looks like the ongoing civil war between Belfast and Ivory Coast, according to Facebook. Anyway,
Yeah, I know. Idiots don't have the slightest clue about their flags. So that's why I put on our run sheet today. We're going to bring back Zombie Watch. So I'm sure there's some stuff there. So what would like the listeners, anyone there to do is in the comments, we're also going to have a Q&A section later on. So if you've seen any funny memes or things that have happened over the last week or two of Rangers fans, put it in the comments so we can bring it up later on. And also, if you've got any questions for myself or Liam, football related, Australian Celtic fans, Japanese-based Celtic fans, you want to discuss about either of the tours, which we'll talk about later on, put it in the comments as well, and we'll get to them, have a bit of a chat. So, because, it's been a bit of a slow week. So what we'll do is we'll start off with the usual shout. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Celtic Down Under podcast. We'd really appreciate that. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram. We've got our website, but that's going to be undergoing some changes soon. So, follow us on all the socials and get around the Celtic Down Under boys. So, Liam, I'm going to jump straight into the first topic that I already touched on. Celtic to tour Japan in 2023. First of all, what are your thoughts on that? And second of all, what's the media coverage, if there has been any, over there?
Well, not to put a downer on things, but there has been quite a big news story in Japan for the last couple of days that's grabbed all the headlines. So that there's not been that much talk about the Celtic thing, actually. I only saw it when you sent me the Twitter link to it. But the sources that are talking about it are dependable. So I believe that it is happening. But usually with these things in Japan, they don't actually announce the full details until maybe about 4 to 6 months before it's actually going to happen. So if it's at the end of next season, which is what I think what we're looking at, or the start of the 2023-24 season, probably expect more firm details about fixtures and dates to come out maybe February, March next year, I would suggest.
Yeah, the talk is it's going to be this time next year because the league winner goes straight into the Champions League again from Scotland. And if you come second, you don't start your Champions League qualifiers until August. So, yeah, it'll be about this time next year. So, Sid in the comments has got a nice one here for you, Liam. Has Liam got a spare room for the tour? So, you're going to be everyone's best mate.
Not at the moment, but hopefully by this time next year I'll be set up in a new pad with the wife, so we might have a spare room.
I think the boys from the podcast will call dibs before anyone else, mate. But all your old men will come over or something.
Bear in mind, I'm still about 2 hours away from where the games are going to be played, so we're Nagano, where I am now, is about it's about 90 minutes by the high-speed bullet train from Tokyo, and then from Tokyo you're about another hour to get to Yokohama on local trains.
Come on, Liam, you just ruined my comment. I was going to say, you said you're 2 hours away. I was going to be like, yeah, but that's like 14 minutes or something like that on the bullet train. But then you had to go and put the fact in the way. So,
Oh, dear. Sorry.
Anyway, no, all good. So the talk is that we're going to go over there. There's going to be 2 games, one against Marinos. The other one, the more and more you think about it, it'll probably be against Vissel Kobe because of the Kyogo factor, as long as we don't sell him at the end of the season. So, it'll be interesting to see how that happens. But I actually wouldn't mind us playing Kawasaki Frontale as well, because I've seen them in the Asian Champions League, and they're a club that's always up there and abouts at that level. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. There's some good teams over there.
Yeah, I mean, the Vissel Kobe one makes sense on a couple of levels because they have a heavy tie-up with Barcelona through Rakuten, which is basically like Japanese Amazon. That company's got a major shareholding in both clubs, and what I understand is that would also be geographically a good thing, because Kobe is in the Kansai area, which takes in like Osaka, Kyoto, Kobe, and that area, whereas Yokohama is next door to Tokyo, which takes in the Kanto area. So that way, Celtic could cover two different major population centres of Japan, which would, allow for a lot more ticket sales.
So basically, for the everyman person who's done basic Japanese and doesn't live there, you've got where you're saying about Kobe, Osaka, all that down in Plain Vista, Kobe. That's like the southern part of the main island, isn't it? And then Yokohama's more the northeastern side of the main island.
Aye, it's more a kind of a east and west thing rather than north and south, because if you look at them on a map, they're both pretty central, but they're a good couple of 100 miles apart. So
yeah, that'll be interesting.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's. I just think that if Celtic were looking to maximise their revenue, having one game in the sort of Osaka, Kobe, Kyoto area, and one game in the Yokohama, Tokyo area makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'd be keen to get over there. It's I've always said to the missus I want to go to Japan, but now there's a reason other than just to be the tourist. But I highly doubt it's going to happen, because I'd rather get over to Scotland first. But how's the border situation at the moment? I hear they're not letting foreigners in at the moment.
That changed as of about a month ago. They were previously only letting in 500 people a day. That went up to 1,000, then went up to 5,000. I think it's now sitting at 10,000 per day can enter. But that is gradually increasing as time goes on. I mean, there's a new wave of the virus outbreak in Japan just now, but the government have said there's not going to be any restrictions. So I think they're just getting on with it regardless. So by this time next year, I expect things will be back to normal by the time I'm going back to Scotland at Christmas. So that will be 6 months on from then, when these Celtic games are looking at happening. So yeah, I really expect it'll be back to normal by then, or pretty much back to normal. What might happen is people who, for whatever reason, if you don't have 2 shots, you might have to do a PCR test before you fly out, but that's probably it. My missus is in that position for medical reasons. She can't get fully vaccinated, so she's going to have to do PCR tests before we go to Scotland. But it's just that is what it is.
Fair enough. Each person's got their own situation, and at the end of the day, it's no one's business really what everyone's vaccine status is and medical, all that sort of stuff. So for me, it's if the rules are these, what the rules are, then you got to play by them or work around them within whatever the regulations are by Japanese government at the end of the day. So
what I would say is just that Japan usually is very they're very reasonable about these kind of things. So it's not like, for example, America, where you're going to have to be vaccinated. So don't worry about that if you're not, for whatever reason. There will be a way for you to enter Japan and go to the Celtic games. You just might have to do a test or whatever,
That's good to hear. All right, so we'll jump on to the preseason games. So I'm just going to bring up the first one we had. So Celtic 7, SC Wiener Victoria 0. Goals were scored by Johnny Kenny in the 10th minute, Rea Hatate in the 13th, Mikey Johnson in the 17th, Johnny Kenny again in the 25th minute, Christopher Julian in the 43rd minute, James Forrest in the 44th, Rocco Vada in the 76th minute. So we'll go starting lineup was Harding goals, Uragidi, Julian, Larwell, and Burnaby. McCarthy, Itaguchi, Hatate in the midfield. Forrest, Kenny, Johnson up front. Then subs was halftime. Segrist came on. I can't know how to say Dede or Dede, however you say. He came on the 60th for Julian. Ando came on in the 46th minute as well. Shaw come on at the 60th for McCarthy. Summers come on at half-time. Varda come on at half-time. Ayeti at half-time. And Moffat in the 67th minute. Had to leave him to last for that, the minute number, just because you know how it is. So I'm not going to do the old deep dive into both these preseason games because every player is at different stages. Those who came back early because they weren't playing internationals, they're going to be like a week ahead of the other guys. There's young guys coming up from the Colts who are getting their first, preseason with the senior men's team. It's all different pathways. It's different fitness levels, different programs, pathways are happening from guys from the Colts up. For me, it's just exciting to see Celtic back playing. What are your thoughts, Liam, so far? And particularly anything that jumped out at you from that game?
The funny thing about that game, first of all, it was an education because I thought Wiener Victoria was a hooker who lived in Hamburg. But anyway, boom, boom. It's good to see this kind of scenario because these are players who, the majority of them are not going to be first team regulars this season. Let's be honest, but getting a good look at them and seeing what they can do. One thing that was immediate apparent to me. Now, granted, this was a very, I think, second or third division team we were playing. It was quite a low level second division. Yes. Yeah,
mid-table second division.
Right. So it's the equivalent of playing a friendly against somebody like Falkirk or something in Scotland, right? Yeah. But, you've still got to go out and score the goals. And for us to take 7 off them with our second team, essentially, that were obviously Hatate and whatever are not second string players, but, a severely weakened team, let's put it that way, and we still scored 7 goals. It was really good to see, and it was good to see the heart and the motivation from a lot of these guys who know they're not first picks, but they still want to go out there and show Ange what they can do. And that's a big difference, I think, on last pre-season. Whereas, Ange was just in the door, and if I remember right, Chris Ayer had already said, I'm off. He didn't even take part in pre-season. And there were 3 or 4 other players who it was quite obvious their hearts weren't in it. But from what I saw, no passengers in the team now. Even guys who are nowhere near the first team are giving it all when they go out on the park, and that is really good to see.
Yeah, you touched on everyone's showing what they can do, and it's a good opportunity for them. And a couple of guys there that I wanted to point out from that game, only 3 players played the full 90. And the guys that are Uragidi we signed this time last year, didn't really get a chance, went out on loan. So it's good for him to come back and play the full 90 and see what he can do. Julian played because the other guys are off at different stages of it and everything. So it's good to get him fit so we can sell him anyway. But whatever. But Bosun Lawwell, big raps on him coming out of the B team. And he looked decent. He looks first team ready physically. But then you've got Itaguchi. Like, he come in, barely did anything. Of the 4 Japanese guys, he's the only one that we have a question mark on going into this season because we barely saw him last year because of that injury he copped. Yeah. So I think having guys like those guys that I touched on just then, getting a bit of a run, and then also Mikey Johnson playing 67 minutes. I'm throwing him in there because I want to get people in the comments to let me know your thoughts on Mikey Johnson so far in pre-season games, because I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like him, but there's also a lot of people who think he doesn't get enough opportunity. So I want to get the feel of people in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts are on Mikey Johnson in pre-season as well. But yeah, for me, it's pre-season. You don't get too worried about it. The main thing is as long as you get through the game, everyone ticks the legs over, we play some football and we don't pick up injuries. That's the main thing.
Yeah, exactly. Just to touch on the Mikey Johnson thing, I think he played well in what I saw of him. But the problem Johnson has is the same problem as he had last season. I don't think he's a bad player. I just think every other option we have for his position is better than him at the moment.
We've got five better options. Let's be honest here. Like, as wingers, you've got on the left wing, you've got Maeda and you've got Jota ahead of him. Then if you were to play Maeda at striker, like you could play him there, you could play Jota out right. But then why would you do that? Because you can do that if you want, but then you've also got a Barter there. So it comes down to who's the 4th-string winger, who's the 5th-string winger, James Forrest or Mikey Johnson, because that's where you are in the squad. And then there's still
and bear in mind, if we've got Giakoumakis fit and we're playing him, Kyogo is probably going to have to play on one of the wings to accommodate him as well. So
potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Kyogo could play in the 10 behind him.
Aye, that's a possibility. Yeah.
But then we get into the next one against Rapid Vienna. So 3-3 draw. We score, they score. We score, they score. We score, they score. A game of tennis, pretty easy. So O'Reilly scored in the 9th, Turnbull in the 56th, Kyogo in the 65th minute. Again, it was good to see the main guys start to get a bit of, like a few bigger names coming into the squad here. So I like the way they listed it on the Celtic website this time around. The first half team, second half team. So it was so I can only see one player who played the whole, I think there's only one player there who played the whole 90 again, which was Uragidi. So first half was Hart, Uragidi, Welsh, Carter Vickers, Bernabe, McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly, Jota, Giakoumakis, Maeda. Second half, Bain, Uragidi, Julian, Taylor. Then you Kyogo, Abada, Turnbull, McCarthy, Itaguchi, Forrest, Lawwell. I was trying to figure out who the extra centre back was. They left him till last, Lawwell. So, the only guy who played the full 90 minutes there was Uragidi. Again, what were your thoughts on that one?
It did have a bit of a pinball element to it, the way the ball was going back and forth, but it was a very entertaining game to watch, just from watching a game of football point of view. And it was just, Celtic fans like us, we've been without regular football for, 6 or 7 weeks now. And it was like, it's Saturday night, let's watch the game. It was just really good to get back into that mode. And I think this was a better game than what you usually get with a lot of pre-season fare, because yes, the team was almost completely changed at half-time, and so was, I think, Rapid Vienna did pretty much the same thing with their team as well. But it was an entertaining game, plenty of goals, plenty of couple of blunders for discussion as well, but we can put that down to pre-season jitters, I think. No, I think it was just a really good, entertaining game, and better than you usually get from a pre-season game. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the next that game, as long as we just step up in not just in difficulty but performance over the next few pre-season games, then results are irrelevant. It's about the performance and the way we go about it. But looking at that, I'm like, it was a decent quality game for our second practice game. Then you got tonight, you've got us versus Banik Ostrava. On Saturday at Celtic Park against Blackburn Rovers. And then next Wednesday, we'll be doing our next podcast leading into the Arthur Burridge Cup against Legia Warsaw. And then you've got Norwich City after that. So there's 4 more pre-season games. Each one of these, I think, is a bit of a step up. So it'll be good to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I think particularly when we play the 2 English teams, looking back to what West Ham did to us pre-season last year, I mean, they completely took Celtic apart. The teams we're playing this year are not of the same calibre of West Ham, but they're going to play a similar tempo of football. So how well we do against them is going to be a sign of how far along we've come in pre-season, I think,
Yep, agree with that. And as you said, like West Ham was at a whole nother level compared to everyone we're playing this year. But, I'm not too worried. Norwich City, where are they? They're in the Premier League last year and got relegated, didn't they?
Mm.
So
Aye.
they're coming down from the EPL level. Blackburn don't know what they've been up to too much recently, but they're still a big
Yeah.
big club in England.
I think they're championship at the moment. I could be wrong, but I think they're championship.
I think that's where they are, but I'm just thinking in terms of the club, like they're a big club. They've won the EPL twice. So I know it was way back in the day, but still they're a decent club. Legia Warsaw, that should be interesting because of the club history plus the old the Arthur Borich factor in that game. It'll be interesting to see if it's a friendly or not. I'd have my doubts. And then we got Bannock Strava tonight, and that's they got like a 15,000 seat stadium, and apparently it's going to be a bit of a sellout, pretty fiery because we're the big European team coming to play them at their stadium over in the Czech Republic as their celebration of their club's 100th year. So we're their big preseason friendly. This is like their 5th preseason friendly or 6th preseason friendly, and we're only in game 3. So they're further along in their preseason, and we're their big guests. So as I said earlier, I'm not worried about the results. If we get beat, whatever, it's preseason for us. But I don't want us to lose ever because we're Glasgow Celtic, and that's what happens.
No, but by the same token, I would say to the viewers and the listeners, don't get too upset if we do lose this game, because for the reasons you've just outlined, our opponents are going to be much more fired up and probably better prepared than we are. So don't be too distressed if we don't win this game tonight. I hope we do, and I think we can, but don't get too distressed if we don't.
I'm going to use that as a good segue. Don't be too distressed. Because as Celtic fans, I don't want to see any tears being shed and people being all upset, because next thing I want to talk about, we're not going to see Larson name on the back of a Celtic top again.
No.
The rumours are Jordan Larson's agent reached out to Celtic to see if we're keen, and we've told him, no thanks. So it's not happening. At the end of the day, it's a twofold thing for me. On the club front, fans doesn't want him, and he's not the sort of player that we have or we need. I don't see us needing to strengthen the positions he plays, so I'm not upset with that. For the player perspective of Jordan Larson, him coming to Celtic, as much as that, you've got the King of Kings, would he be the Prince of Paradise or something like that? Who knows? But, the pressure that he would be on from the moment he set foot in that changing room and in that stadium, I don't know if he's been hit and miss at some of his other clubs. So would he be able to thrive in that environment? I have my doubts. So it's probably better that he's not coming at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a difficult one but on the one hand, I think it's good because for the sake of enhancing the team, it's good to see that Celtic as a commercial entity, if you want to say it, are actually putting the strength of the team ahead of the commercial potential. Because, like you say, if we'd have signed Jordan Larson, shirt sales would have gone through the roof. The wee marketing guy at Celtic must be quite distressed just now that we didn't do it. But it's good to see that Ange has clearly had a look at him and said, decent player, but not what we need right now. And that is Jordan Larson for me. He's not the player his dad is, but let's face it, 95% of players in world football will never get near Henrik Larsson's level. I just worry that if he had come to Celtic, it would have been a Jordi Cruyff scenario, when he went to Manchester United. Great player in his own right, but nowhere near the level of his dad. and his career was kind of overshadowed by the fact that everyone kept comparing him to his dad,
Jordy Cruyff was awesome in the original Football Manager. Let's be real here. But in real life, come on now. Like, I'm showing my age here, but every season in Football Manager or in FIFA, I'll be buying him straight away.
Yeah.
Him and Landon Donovan, they were the two guys that you could get on the cheap in those games and kick ass with. But yeah, I get your point.
Yeah, I remember in FIFA there used to be a wee Malaysian striker called Superman that you could sign, but the commentator would say Superman, so it was quite funny to have Superman up front in your team.
Quite apt with
anyway,
the shirt you're wearing, Liam. Quite apt with your shirt you're wearing.
Right, but getting back to what I was saying, it's good to see Celtic taking a team decision as opposed to a financial decision. Because if it was purely about finances, Jordan Larsson would be a Celtic player now, whether Ange wanted him or not.
And Jackie Mackis would have had his number changed to number 9, you can guarantee.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I wish Jordan Larsson well, and I saw, back when Scottish football and English football were in a kind of shutdown a couple of years ago, I watched quite a lot of Russian football because it was the only one of the few leagues that was still running. And I kind of started following Spartak Moscow just as a kind of a team that I liked. And Larsson looked good at that level. But Spartak Moscow are not the team they used to be. The Russian league is not what it used to be. And I think Celtic would be a step up too far for him at this point in time. He's still fairly young, so he could go on to have a great career somewhere else. But no, I think it's for the sake of his mental health and his future development. I think it's better for him to go somewhere where he's not going to have the totally unrealistic expectation that a lot of Celtic fans would have of him because of his name. Playing in somewhere like Russia where, no disrespect, but Henrik Larsson probably is not the household name in Russia that he is in Scotland or in Europe. So it allows Jordan to kind of fly under the radar a wee bit. So it might be better for him to stay in one of the more obscure leagues, if you know what I mean.
Go sign at Red Star, go play in the Balkans. Go cut sick down there for a few years and, you'll be laughing.
Aye.
But anyway, speaking of player departures, we're talking about someone who we hope is possibly linked with us. So, Ismail Assoro on loan with the option to buy to FC Arouca in Portugal. I think that's a good signing for him, and I like the good chance for him to go play football, decent standard, and also a good opportunity for us because, he's still got a bit of time left on his contract, so we could get some funds in at the end of that contract if they take up the option. So that's good. And if they don't, well, he's played consistent for 12 months, we'll be able to sell him because he's in the shop window. So he's better off being there playing than sitting at our bench, some games not even getting on the bench. Too old for the Colts. Makes sense. Happy with that departure. What do you reckon, Liam?
I totally agree. It's a good move for all parties involved. This Portuguese team get a guy with Europa League experience. Celtic get a guy who is not realistically going to be part of the first team plans this season, out and playing football and in the shop window. And Sorrow gets a chance to resurrect his career. So yeah, it's good all round.
And then on to the other departure, which was announced yesterday in the last 24 hours. The ultimate shagger, Boli Bolingoli, departing the club on a permanent deal to KV Mechelen in Belgium. Bye Boli. That's why we named the pod that. Like, uru, piss off you go.
Yeah.
Not wanted. See you later.
Big thank you to whoever the anonymous Belgian bird is that seduced him. Thank you.
Yep. So, thought I'd bring up this list that Sean sent through to us in the group chat. So, since the end of last season, here's a list of Celtic exits. Now, we all knew that it was going to be a lot different. So, we're not going to bring in 16+ players. We're going to bring in, we all thought maybe 5 or 6 players, right? And it was about getting people off the books. So Karamoko's gone, Ross Doohan, Kerr McInroy, Barkas on loan, Bolingoli, Bitton, Rogic, Sorrow, Connell, Henderson, Afalabi, Scales, Montgomery. On top of that, there's guys like Barry Coffey, and there's a bunch of guys from the Colts who got let go. So all up, there's about 17 or 18 players that have moved on from the club. Now, also it looks like Celtic is signing a new Eddie, or potentially looking at a new Eddie from PSG. Now, the guy's name is Edward Mitchut, or Mitchat. He's a midfielder for around £2 million. He's he's asked to play for their juniors, and he said, "No, I want to play first team football," and looks like he's headed our way, potentially. So we got him, and we got the rumor of the other Argentinian midfielder. So the reason I brought them up is because we've got a question, because it ties into the next thing I just said earlier on. We wanted to do some listener questions from the live stream, and also put out a thing on Twitter before as well. So we've got some Twitter questions. So the Unvarnished sent through a Twitter question: how many more positions need to be filled this transfer window? Now, for me, 2 or 3. We've got we need a left-sided centre back still, particularly if Julian moves on. I think Julian's got to go out before we replace someone there. If a Yeti leaves, we need another guy who can play, potentially another guy there, but at the same time, who's going to want to come in at third striker when you've got Maeda who can play there? You've got Abada who can play some striker, and we've got options, so it'll be a weird one there. The key one at the moment is a defensive midfielder. So that's where we're being linked with this guy at PSG, and also with the other Argentinian midfielder. What do you reckon, Liam? How many more players do you think we need?
Yeah, I would say, like you say, left-sided centre-back and a midfield destroyer. Not necessarily just a defensive midfielder, but very much a Scott Brown type. We do at times lack that aggression in the midfield that we used to have. And of course, with Sorrow going out the door, that is one guy who could potentially have filled that role, but isn't going to. One that I think might be interesting to watch in that role is potentially Ideguchi. He's not the biggest guy, obviously, physically, but he can put a tackle in. And if he was deployed as the kind of midfield enforcer for a run of 3 or 4 games, I'd be interested to see what he could do. But as it stands right now, I agree with you that that's 2 positions we definitely need to reinforce. And if Ajeti goes out, rather than sign another striker, because we've got too many of those already, I think we should look for a kind of a Rogic type, someone who's like an attacking midfielder but can also step up and play off the striker if need be. Now, that's a very tricky position to recruit for, but that would be to me, that's a luxury rather than a necessity. The left-sided centre-back and the midfield destroyer are necessities. The new option for attack in midfield would be a luxury, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree with you. Next question we've got here. Okay. You won't be able to answer this, Liam, but I will. Peter Lacey has said, where can you buy Buckfast in Sydney? Simple answer. It's a website you can go to called boozle.com.au, I think it is. And you type in, you go where you are, you type in where you are, what drink you're after, and it brings up a massive list of all the different botlos and pubs and stuff that'll have that. So that's how you can find Buckfast in Sydney. Where you'd actually get it depends where you're staying, mate.
For those in Japan, Amazon does international shipping on it, but it's about 45 quid a bottle, so it's a question of how badly do you need it.
Okay, serious question from Shane Beaton. If we play with a single 10, who gets the nod? Turnbull or O'Reilly?
O'Reilly. O'Reilly for me. Shown more than Turnbull has in what we've seen of him in recent months. Plus, O'Reilly now has the motivation of potentially playing for a World Cup spot with Denmark. So I think we're going to see him step up even more next season. Yeah, I like Turnbull, but if it's a straight choice between the two, O'Reilly's a better player, no question.
I'll throw another one at you. I said on a couple of weeks before the end of the season that I couldn't see both Turnbull and Rogic being at the club by the start of the season. Rogic has moved on. I can't. Turnbull played really well first half of the season last year. Then he got hurt, right? So I understand it, Turnbull, but his problem is he's got to speed his game up, and Ange wants to go even faster. You look at guys we're signing, like Bernabé. He's just got a motor about him. So I'm looking at it going, if you've got him ducking up the wing, putting crosses in, is Turnbull going to be that guy that he cuts the ball back to at the top of the box around the penalty spot to bang it in? He could do that role. But I actually think it'll be O'Reilly because he brings more movement and a bit more speed. So I think it'll be O'Reilly. However, early on in the pod, I mentioned Kyogo possibly playing in the 10. So if you were to have Giakoumakis as a striker with Kyogo playing behind him in the 10, and you've got the coach there to make it happen, because at Leeds and in the Australian national team, you had the big striker, Mark Viduka, and the guy in the 10 playing off him behind him in Harry Kewell. Who better to learn that role from?
Yeah.
I could see Kyogo playing in that role as well.
Well, actually, just to add further intrigue, Maeda played that role on a number of times. I saw him play for Matsumoto Yamaga.
Was a secondary striker?
Yeah. He, depending on who they were playing against, he would either play as a secondary striker or he would play as the sort of lone striker. And he would just be like wandering all across the front of the pitch and just chasing down every ball that he could. And that was where you saw his engine. But I think in Yamaga's case, certainly, he was much more effective when he had a big striker to play off of. So that's one to think about as well, you know.
Before I get into the next two other questions I've got, if you watch it on the live stream, you got any questions as well you want to throw in, put them in the comments, send them through. We're happy to discuss them as well. It doesn't, just because it's not on Twitter doesn't mean we're not going to discuss them. So send through any questions if you've got them. Shane also sent through a non-serious question. And it was, who forgot to give Rapid the memo that it was a friendly?
There are no friendlies when Celtic play Rapid. That's the rules.
Facts. 100% facts. That comment, Liam. Like, couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Connor Carr, I had him on our Tim Talk podcast a little while ago. He sent through a message saying, a question, how far away do you think Celtic are from winning another European trophy? I say in the next 5 years we could have at least won the Conference League. What do you think, Liam?
No. Based on the fact that the Huns came within one kick of winning a European trophy last season, and it was actually the second best of the 3 trophies available, if we go our current trajectory, I'll be more optimistic. I'll say within 3 years we could reach a European final.
Yeah, I'd say we could be challenging, but I'm going to go back to the pragmatic thought that I've said in the past. Until we break that monkey, break that hoodoo and get that monkey off our back. I've got to make it the right way so I don't sound, like an absolute idiot. But until we can get rid of
we're not endorsing animal abuse here, anybody. Don't go breaking any monkeys, please.
That was why I stopped. But if we can, until that is done and we win that knockout phase after Christmas, then I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. Like, I want us to win. I think 3 years is achievable. You look at was it Bodo Glimt, for instance, they were in year 3 or year 4 or something with their manager. Year 4, I think it was, in their process, and they came out of nowhere. You look at
Yeah.
Rangers last season, they were in like year 4. You put the Gerrard years in plus that, and that was year 4 of building a project. We tend to get 2 years in, sell our best player, another 2 years, sell our best players, sort of thing. So we can keep this squad together. And if one player moves on and then you replace them with similar or better quality and you're slowly upgrading while you've got the squad depth and everything, then fine. I reckon we could give Europa League a fair crack. Potentially win that or the Conference League within the next 3 to 5 years. But until we get through that, get that hoodoo off our back, then I just don't want to say that it's going to happen just yet. And I half expect these to be clipped by Rangers fans and bouncing around their things soon enough. So have fun with that.
No, I mean, the other thing is as well that with Harry Kewell coming into the coaching staff, he is that bit younger than Ange, and I do wonder if that is a continuity move for the future. Because, we will hopefully have Ange for a good few years, but we're going to get to a point probably about 4 or 5 years where Ange is going to be hitting 60 and he's going to be thinking, right, maybe it's time to, possibly take one last shot at managing Australia or something like that, or maybe go to another big European club before he retires. And maybe Harry Kewell has come in there to kind of serve an apprenticeship under him and hopefully continue the same style of play. So we could be looking at the start of a dynasty here that could last for the next 10 years. That would be I think that would be unprecedented in Celtic's recent history to have that level of continuity. And I really hope that is what we're putting in place just now, because I like what we're doing. Celtic now is possibly the most diverse squad we've ever had. Definitely the possibly the fittest squad we've ever had. And I think that's only going to improve as time goes on. And I hope Ange is with us for as long as he can be, but that's not going to be forever. And I hope that this is a sign that we're putting in place long-term planning to continue along the same track, even if Ange decides to head back to Australia at some point,
Yep. Well, Ange has said in the past that he's over in Europe for the rest of his life, basically. So the rest of his career will be over in Europe. So he'll stay with us as long as he wants. And then, if he wants to hang him up, then he can move upstairs, director of football role, overseeing it with someone stepping up, as you're saying, Harry Kewell. There you go. Aussie dynasty. Yeah. That could be perfect.
Yeah, I'd be quite happy with that.
Now, on to the next topic, Liam, the last one for the episode.
All right.
It's time, everyone. We got to bring it back. It's Zombie Watch. Now, has to be done because of the stupidity going on this time of the year. Did you see the video of that band walking along? Some bloke throws the garbage bin at him, and then they all jump the fence, and they throw a bin through a window, which wasn't even for his house. How good is that?
I love that. I love the little kicker on the news report that said the bin and the suspect have been detained.
Yeah, I saw them putting the bin in the bag. Brilliant.
Oh, but I got one yesterday, which I don't know how old this is because I'm sure I saw it before, but this was a shout out to somebody on Twitter who sent this. At the height of their bonfires and whatever, one of them who just has the red hand flag of Ulster for his avatar. Ironically, his name's Craig Flanagan, which sounds it doesn't quite sound very Ulster to me, but there you go. Speaking about the Irish language, he says, "I would rather die than speak a word of that foreign dead language." And a Celtic fan has replied saying, "You speak it every day, Craig. Your name is an Irish language construct. Also, your hometown means mouth of the Sandbank Ford," referring to Belfast. Craig's reply, "No, Belfast was named after King Billy's horse, Bell, and she was fast."
Oh, God.
I mean, it gets to a point where the stupidity is such that you really can't put a price on it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I've got some that aren't actually about the marches and stuff. I've got a couple
Right.
that I've seen that are actually about, the zombies over at Ibrox. So Dan McCroskey has put up 2 players that have turned down Celtic to join Rangers instead is to be expected. Welcome, Tom and Rabbi. Okay.
Yeah.
Never even heard of. I've heard of Tom. I have no idea who Rabbi is, right?
No.
So that's part one. The second one, and this is where I found out more about this Rabbi. Rangers' new boy, Rabbi Matondo, was clocked sprinting faster than Usain Bolt. What's that got to do with the price of fish in China? Like, seriously.
Well, do you know who, on record, who Celtic's fastest ever player was? Chaduri.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So, no harm to Chaduri, but not exactly a Celtic legend. So, no, we can all run fast. It's how fast you run when you've got a ball at your feet is what actually matters,
And what you do with the ball, because you can be fast, but sometimes you can't do anything. Look at Bolingoli, he's just left. He is quick. But when he get on the ball, what would he do? Dribble into trouble. So who cares? I just saw those and thought those are just as stupid. Like, anyone out there, you see anything on Twitter that you think you want brought up for Zombie Watch, get on there, share it, send me a DM to @CelticDown. So the more of that we have, we can take the piss out of them. It's a good thing. Want to be doing this as a regular segment, because who doesn't mind having a laugh and taking the piss out of that mob?
On a slight tangent, shout out to whoever it is, and you know who you are, the person who updated Jota's Wikipedia page just after he signed for Celtic, officially. So I'll just read you the paragraph here. João Pedro Neves Felipe, born March 29, 1999, is known as Jota, a Portuguese professional footballer. He plays as a winger for Celtic. All good so far. This is where it gets interesting. He is famous for having single-handedly stolen all of Seville's water supply during the 2022 Europa League final, causing Rangers fans to drink from toilet bowls.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I think we've given them enough airtime, but yeah, if you spot anything that's ridiculously stupid, please forward it on as a DM to us @CelticDown.
Yeah.
On Twitter. Want to laugh at them as much as possible, because who knows how long we've got them left for. Anyway, we'll wrap the podcast up.
That's enough talk about the BD Rattlers for one day.
Yeah, exactly. So before we do our final thoughts to wrap the podcast up, just everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Celtic Down Under podcast. I said this early on, but please, we're trying to grow our subscriber count both for the podcast through your podcast app and on our YouTube channel. So if you're on YouTube, get subscribed, hit the like button, hit notification bell as well. Helps with the algorithms and all that, and gets us out there to more Celtic fans. So trying to grow this channel as we go. On Instagram and Twitter, you can find us @CelticDown. Facebook, there's a Facebook page and a Facebook group. Join the group, like the page, all the stuff. Website is going to be offline shortly and will be relaunched in a month or two's time. So we'll let you know when that's up and about. Final thought for me for the podcast is I just want to give a shout out to a few people who had some milestone birthdays over the last week. So first of all, I'll give a shout out to Tony Haggerty, who's on Axom and the Celtic Way. Had his 50th birthday yesterday or the day before. So happy 50th, Tony. Top man, top guy. And there's some bloke who, you know, launched the Celtic Down Under podcast. He's talking absolute shit right now. Had his 40th last week. So I'm officially an old bastard. Hey.
I'm only 18 months behind you, mate, so I'm going to stay quiet. Oh.
It's your final thought, Liam.
Right. Well, I'm going to close out my final thought with something that I shared with you this afternoon, actually. As you know, back in the UK, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, who I famously got us landed with an explicit content warning for bringing up on the last podcast, he left his position. Or rather, he said he's going to leave his position. He hasn't actually gone yet. So, there are, at the time of publication, probably less by the time a lot of people hear this, 8 contenders in line to be the next Prime Minister or the next leader of the British Conservative Party. So, here's how I think they should choose their new leader. Now, somebody sent this to me. I didn't write this myself, so credit to whoever it was that came up with this. 1, stick them all on a plane to Rwanda. Give each of them their own budget to pay for enough food and drink to cover themselves for a couple of months. Every time they cross a border, they have to justify how they are a high-skilled worker, and the first one to make it back to London gets to be Prime Minister.
When I saw that, I said, it sounds like a combination of The Amazing Race and The Survivor. But if we're going to do something similar to that, you know, seems like a version of the Hunger Games as well.
Well, I'm reminded of there was a British comedian called Brian Conley who, if you watched British TV back in the 90s, you might remember. He was not especially funny, but he came out with one quote once that I thought was brilliant, and I think we could apply the same thing here, right? He said, watching the London Marathon is so boring. All these guys running about dressed as Bugs Bunny and whatever. He says, what they should do is every half an hour shoot the last 6. He said that would make it more interesting. So introduce a Hunger Games element to this Tory party leadership race as well, right? Every hour, the last one gets shot. Just keep going.
Got some comments, but, you know, it'll get the channel taken down. So we'll leave that go through the keeper. And
we'll
back to you, Joe Hart. Off you go through to the keeper. We'll leave it there. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Whoa.